Bright and early on a Wednesday 29th, and today we're going to be looking at several gardens and seeing what is happening. We're in the resort garden and we have a newly created plot here where we're growing glass gem corn. These seeds originally came from Krista's garden and they've been doing really well, and look how happy they are. In here we also have a row of carrots that are popping up, and this half section of this plot here gets more shade, so we're hoping that the carrots will grow nice and big for us here. We're waiting for beans and sunflowers to pop up out of this bed, and in the meantime it's looking really happy. There is a black foot Sioux seedlings coming out, and rather than plant and transplant, I'm just throwing a bunch of seeds this time and just letting it work itself out. So this year we're trying to be a little bit more mindful about how many plants we're transplanting. So we'll talk about that as we look at other things. So up there is just our normal, mostly herbs and stuff up there. And then we're waiting on some beans to come up. As I just recently mentioned, we have some Nickel filet beans that are going that way. The red yard long beans that are gonna hopefully climb our corn when they get taller. And some black turtle bean. And then we have a couple of watermelon sprouts. Those are the Cajo watermelon that are coming up. I'm hoping that we get some this year. And we have shade cloth here because this past week has been really warm. We've gotten really intense sun, and it's very unusual for this time of year. Got up to the 90s, so this Helen avocado tree is being shaded, and it is super nice super happy in this location. So it sprouted out this section last year, and it's got this really nice healthy green color to the avocado. Up here is our desert area, and we're working on moving more plants down that way and get a desert and succulent area. So you can tell how happy they are with the heat. They're making lots of flowers and looking really nice over there. And we're gonna move into our 150 square foot garden and some backyard growing area. First we'll start on the terrace section we have that we created this year because we want to grow more things, like some nice big hatch peppers. So these guys have been transplanted down. These are New Mexico 64L hatch peppers, so hopefully we get some nice big ones. And then our 3-year-old grapevine, the red flame, is making blossoms now. I'm not an expert grape grower, so I'm not sure if you're supposed to thin some of the clusters out to get bigger grapes or not. So we'll just watch it and see how it goes. So if they get big, then we know we don't need to thin them out. If they don't get too big, we'll have to look into that. Got some large containers that we moved out this way because behind me is our bedroom window, and the idea is to let some vining plants like this tomato grow up a line and that's connected to our eaves to cast some shadow or shade to our bedroom window to help with some of the heating and cooling. And over here is our 150 square foot garden. It's starting to fill in. Right now it looks a little bit messy, but in a couple weeks with all this heat we should fill in and look a little bit nicer. In the meantime, we have a lot of our seedlings that we planted away, so this is what's left, and I got to get to transplanting some of these peppers that are down here. Squashes, these are summer squashes. So this plant was directly sowed maybe a couple weeks ago, and then that one was sowed a couple weeks prior, and it's good illustration about in California how you can direct sow a little bit later, and the plant will actually grow faster than if you were just to sow it early or to do transplants, because we have so much energy through the sun, it can grow better and faster. So those are the two differences. In this bed here we have it planted nice and densely like we like, and we have 7 Roma tomato plants, and then the one that is on the tomato ladder, that's an indeterminate tomato, so it'll grow nice and tall. That's a Costaluto Genovese. And then the Romas are going to stay about this height and just plop over. This year we're really going hard at the nematodes, so you'll hear about this a lot whenever we talk about tomatoes. This is a catch crop known as winter rye, and it's supposed to trap the nematodes. So hopefully with this plant here, the tomatoes will produce a lot better than without it. And we used to have those 2 containers that we just looked at in this area, and there are a couple of grow bags that we're trying to grow potatoes in. So this is a nice and shady area, so hopefully we can grow some nice size potatoes in the summertime in the shade. These are bloom bags, and Krista's garden, she mentioned about how great they are, and I got a couple more because when I moved the other grow bag that I had by the handle with soil in it, and like she says, it's really sturdy, so I think it's well worth the price for them. And we have our blueberries that are coming in. This is the sharp blue, and this has been in a pot for a couple years now, and we have a couple new plants, and we're starting to figure out on how to get them alive through the years. And I think I got it, which is to water the base of the plant, because it's grown in peat moss, and what happens is if you don't water the peat moss, it dries out while everywhere else looks wet, and you don't water it, the plant's gonna die. So we're gonna keep watering it from there until the roots establish, and then we can stop doing that. But in the meantime, these plants are producing quite a few berries. This is my favorite. This is sunshine blue, and it's coming in. And over there is the misty blue, and what's nice about this one is it produces nice and big blueberries. So I need to go over there and put my hand in next to it so you'll know how big it is. So this is what it looks like. These are typical blueberry sizes, and then over there are the larger ones. Our peach is coming in. This is a mid-pride peach. This is the second year it's growing, so we're going to allow it to fruit more. We have a good number on the tree this year. I think last year we let like 3 fruit, but this year we're going to let the double amount. And we thinned out it will produce a bunch of peaches on the branch, and it's important to come in and thin them out. So you want to thin out and pick the nice ones to keep and let fruit. So we'll go around that way and look at the blueberry in a second. But in the meantime, down here we have some onions that are planted, so we're going to try to see if we can get onions to grow during this time of year. Lots of things that we experiment with to see what we can grow out of schedule. These are shishito peppers that are planted down, and little tufts that you see over there are shishito peppers. And we have a volunteer Cosmo with its really sultry magenta color. We come in here and look at the blueberry right here. Look how big it is. So this is a nice plump blueberry. I prefer the smaller ones because they have a more intense flavor. I like that tannin that you find in the skin, and it almost has this pine flavor. So, and over here there's our rabbit marble. You may see a lot of ladders in our garden now because we have that area that we need to access, and there are a couple pumpkin areas that we threw a bunch of seeds on, and hopefully we'll grow pumpkins along the slope where we don't need to worry about harvesting or managing them. So pumpkins are good. Down here we have a couple of tomatillos that are coming in, and hopefully we get a bunch of tomatillos to grow up along and then over the greenhouse. And in this bed, some of the peppers are kind of sad because I transplanted them maybe a little bit too early or took them outside a little bit too early, and I'm hoping they'll do better. But some of these are the larger variety peppers, and usually they can't catch up, but we'll see. We may have to remove all of that stuff. More onions. These are red onions. And then in this bed are some golden bantam corn, and not too far away we have some strawberry popcorn. And if you're wondering about concerns about cross-pollination, that's something that I'm hoping that our stagger sowing will address. So a lot of the corns that we have scattered throughout our gardens, they were staggered sowed. So hopefully by doing that, the tasseling will not sync up, and we won't get too much cross-pollination, and maintain the seed genetics when we save our seeds. And lastly, over here we have this bed where we have where we normally grow our tomatoes, and this is Oxheart tomato. I'm very excited about this one because I've discovered that it's a very practical tomato. We've grown a bunch of these. We have a bunch of these growing, so we're gonna hopefully get a bunch of tomatoes. This is a celebrity tomato. It's a hybrid tomato, and it's known to resist nematodes. So this should be a nice producer for us when the nematodes hit during the heat of summer. And over here is our standard slicing tomato, the Cherokee Purple. And lastly, this is the Principe Borghese. This is one that we tried growing in the past, and by growing too many varieties, we tend to neglect some. So this year we've reduced the number of varieties down by a lot. So that's what's growing in this bed, and we should see a lot of growth next time. So maybe we'll come back and look at the garden in 2 weeks and see what's different and what's changed and how much has grown. And final thing I almost forgot is that with this heat, it's warming up some of our papayas, and we're getting some nice papayas off of this tree. We have a big one that's about a little bit bigger than this. And then the other thing is that our mulberries are warming up, and they're getting ripe, and they're super sweet. All right, that's gonna be it. So until the next update, I hope you all are doing well, and please come back soon. Thanks for watching. Remember that celebrity tomato that we just talked about and how it's resistant to nematodes? We're using it as a rootstock, and we've grafted some tomato varieties onto there. Hopefully the grafts are successful, and we'll have something to talk about in a future video.